Ever feel like, your head and heart are kind of pulling you in opposite directions?
Right.
Like maybe science and religion are these two, like warring factions just battling for your soul.
Right.
Well, get ready to ditch that tired old narrative, because today we're diving into an essay that proposes a pretty radical idea.
Okay.
Faith and science not as rivals, but partners.
Interesting.
We're exploring faith and science, harmony or conflict, and unpacking how the Bahá'í Faith views this often contentious relationship.
Yeah, what's fascinating with the Baha'i Faith is its emphasis on unity.
Mm-hmm.
And that extends to how it sees science and religion. Instead of a battle for dominance, they're viewed as two essential systems of knowledge, both seeking truth.
Okay, so not enemies, but
Right.
what exactly?
Yeah.
The essay quotes Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Bahá'í Faith, as saying, religion without science is superstition, and science without religion is materialism. It's a pretty strong statement.
It is, and it highlights the potential pitfalls of embracing one without the other. Think of it like this. Science provides us with this incredible toolbox for understanding the physical universe, how things work.
Right.
But religion steps in with the moral compass, guiding how we use those tools responsibly.
So like science discovers the gene editing tool, and religion helps us decide if we should be using it to design designer babies or cure genetic diseases.
Exactly.
It's about providing those ethical guardrails.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the Baha'i Faith believes that these guardrails are essential, especially as our scientific capabilities become ever more powerful.
Now, the essay dives into some specific areas where science and religion tend to clash. The big one, of course, is evolution versus creationism. I have to admit, this one's always a bit of a head-scratcher for me.
It's a topic that generates a lot of heat.
Yeah.
But the Baha'i view offers a unique perspective.
Okay.
It acknowledges evolution as a real process, part of God's grand plan,
Mm-hmm.
but it also emphasizes this concept of spiritual evolution happening alongside it.
Okay, wait. Unpack spiritual evolution for me. What exactly does that mean?
So just as humanity has evolved physically over millennia, the Baha'i teachings say we're also evolving, spiritually developing our moral capacity, our understanding of the divine,
Okay.
our ability to love and connect with each other.
So it's not about choosing sides, evolution or creationism, but recognizing these two parallel processes unfolding.
Right.
Does that mean someone could believe in both evolution and God?
Absolutely. The Baha'i Faith sees accepting scientific facts, like evolution, not as diminishing faith, but as potentially deepening it. It's about expanding our understanding of both the physical and spiritual dimensions of existence.
That's a pretty refreshing take. Now, the essay also touches on some other areas where science and religion can get a little awkward. What were some of the specific examples that jumped out at you?
Well, one that's front and center these days is bioethics, particularly as we delve deeper into things like artificial intelligence and gene editing.
Right.
These technologies raise profound ethical questions.
Yeah.
Who gets access to these life-altering tools?
Right.
How do we ensure they're used justly and equitably? These aren't questions science alone can answer.
So it's not about halting scientific progress, but making sure we're asking the right questions along the way. Where does the Baha'i Faith stand on issues like these?
The Baha'i writings emphasize the importance of justice, compassion, and unity in all our endeavors. So, for example, when it comes to something like genetic engineering,
Right.
it's not about rejecting the technology outright, but ensuring it's used to alleviate suffering, not to exacerbate existing inequalities.
It's about applying those ethical lenses to ensure these advancements benefit all of humanity, not just a select few.
Exactly.
That reminds me, the essay also delves into climate change. It feels like that's another area where science and religion can sometimes seem to be speaking different languages.
It certainly can feel that way. But the Baha'i Faith is very clear. We are caretakers of this planet, and we have a responsibility to protect it. In fact, Baha'u'llah talked about living sustainably and using resources wisely way back in the 19th century, long before climate change was on most people's radar.
So environmental stewardship is built right into the Baha'i belief system.
It is, and the essay emphasizes that the Baha'i principle of global cooperation is also critical in tackling climate change, as it's not a problem any one nation can solve alone.
That's a great point. It reminds us that these issues require collective effort, which I think ties back to the Baha'i focus on unity. Now, there's one more topic in this essay that always sparks my curiosity: Extraterrestrial life.
Okay.
I mean, the idea of other beings out there in the vast universe is both mind-blowing and, honestly, a little bit terrifying.
It's a topic that captures the imagination. But the Baha'i perspective offers a really interesting lens on this. Instead of viewing the discovery of extraterrestrial life as a threat to our significance, it's seen as further evidence of the grandeur of creation.
So it wouldn't diminish humanity's spiritual importance, but rather expand our understanding of the cosmos and our place within it.
Exactly. It's a perspective that embraces wonder and possibility rather than fear and contraction. But let's be honest, despite these insightful perspectives, we still see a lot of tension between science and religion in the real world.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it feels like we're constantly bombarded with headlines about the latest clash between science and faith. What are some of the root causes the essay highlights?
Well, one of the biggest culprits is misinterpretation, especially when it comes to religious texts. Take the biblical story of creation, for example.
Okay.
A literal interpretation of the 6 days of creation can lead to direct conflicts with scientific timelines established through geology and cosmology.
So it's about context and interpretation. How does the Baha'i Faith approach this particular example?
The Baha'i writings tend to view those 6 days as symbolic, not literal 24-hour periods.
Okay.
This eliminates the contradiction and allows for a harmonious reading of both the religious text and scientific findings.
That's interesting. So it's not about discarding religious texts, but understanding them in a way that aligns with scientific understanding.
Right.
What other factors contribute to this science versus religion divide?
The essay also points to the fear of irrelevance.
Okay.
Some religious institutions worry that embracing science will undermine their authority, while some scientists see religion as outdated and irrelevant in the modern world. It creates this cycle of distrust and dismissal, hindering any real dialogue.
It's almost like these two powerful forces, each afraid of being eclipsed by the other. Are there any other underlying tensions the essay explores?
Another key factor is the tension between materialism and the search for deeper meaning. You see a purely materialistic worldview, often associated with a strict scientific perspective, can leave people feeling spiritually empty. It struggles to address those big existential questions about the purpose of life, the nature of consciousness, the yearning for something beyond the material world.
It's like science can explain the how, but sometimes we need religion to help us grapple with the why. So if these are some of the roots of the conflict, how do we move beyond this impasse? The essay offers some practical solutions for bridging this divide.
It does. And what's encouraging is that these solutions aren't about choosing one side over the other, but finding ways to integrate and elevate both science and religion.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some of the specific solutions the essay proposes? Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some of the specific solutions the essay proposes?
Well, one of the most important is education reform.
Okay.
It's about moving away from treating science and religion as separate subjects.
Right.
And instead finding ways to weave them together.
So no more science class in one room and religious studies in another with no connection between the two. What would that actually look like?
Imagine a science curriculum where ethical discussions are integrated into the lessons.
Okay.
For example, when learning about genetics and gene editing, students could also explore the ethical dilemmas these technologies raise.
Right.
It would prompt them to consider the potential consequences of scientific advancements and the responsibility that comes with knowledge.
That would make science so much more engaging and relevant for students. It's not just about memorizing facts, but grappling with the real-world implications of those facts.
Exactly. And it works both ways.
Yeah.
Religious education could also benefit from incorporating scientific perspectives. Instead of simply accepting dogma, students could be encouraged to ask questions, explore the natural world, and see the harmony between scientific discoveries and spiritual teachings.
I love that. It's about nurturing both critical thinking and a sense of awe and wonder for the universe we inhabit. Now, beyond education, the essay also highlights the importance of interfaith and interdisciplinary dialogues. How do these dialogues help bridge the divide?
One of the biggest challenges we face is the lack of communication and understanding between different communities. Scientists often live in their world, religious leaders in theirs, and policymakers in yet another. These dialogues create a space where people from diverse backgrounds can come together, share their perspectives, and really listen to one another.
It's about building bridges instead of walls, recognizing that we all have something valuable to contribute, even if we don't agree on everything. The essay specifically mentioned the dialogue on science, ethics, and religion as a successful example. What makes that initiative so effective?
Well, it's been going strong for several years, which demonstrates a long-term commitment to fostering dialogue and understanding.
Yeah.
It brings together a diverse group, scientists, ethicists, theologians, religious leaders from various faith traditions to discuss critical issues at the intersection of science and religion.
So it's not just an academic exercise?
Not at all. It's about taking action.
Oh, wow.
They've produced educational resources,
That's great.
developed ethical guidelines for emerging technologies, and advocated for policies that promote the responsible use of scientific advancements. They've even organized public events to engage the wider community in these conversations.
So it's really about moving beyond just talking and taking concrete steps to address these complex issues. It's inspiring to see that happening. Now, you mentioned earlier that the Bahá'í Faith emphasizes consultation as a way to bridge this divide. Can you remind us what that means and how it applies here?
Consultation is a process of collaborative decision-making, where individuals come together in a spirit of unity and respect
Okay.
to discuss an issue, share their perspectives, and seek solutions that benefit the whole. It's about recognizing that every individual has wisdom to contribute and creating a space where everyone's voice can be heard.
So it's not about winning an argument, but working together to find the best path forward. How does this principle apply to bridging the divide between the science and religion?
Imagine a community grappling with the ethical implications of gene editing.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of avoiding the conversation or letting fear and division take over, they could organize a consultative gathering.
Okay.
They would invite scientists, religious leaders, ethicists, community members, anyone who might be impacted by these decisions to come together.
It sounds like a way to create a space for open and honest dialogue, allowing people to share their concerns and hopes without feeling judged or dismissed.
Precisely. And through that process, they might discover common ground and arrive at a solution that feels right for everyone involved.
It's a beautiful example of how a spiritual principle can have very practical applications in navigating these complex issues. Now, we've talked about education reform, interfaith dialogue, and community consultation. Are there any other practical solutions the essay offers?
Yes, and it's something we touched on earlier, the power of role models and media representation.
Right.
We need to showcase individuals who embody the harmony of science and religion, who demonstrate that it's possible to be both scientifically minded and spiritually grounded.
I think those examples are so important because they challenge those limiting stereotypes we often see. On one hand, you have the image of the rigid, dogmatic religious leader who rejects science. And on the other, you have the cold, calculating scientist who sees no room for spirituality.
Those stereotypes are not only inaccurate, but they're incredibly damaging. By highlighting individuals who break those molds, we can start to shift the narrative and inspire others to see the possibilities of a more integrated worldview.
Absolutely. When you think about those kinds of role models, who comes to mind?
Well, we've already mentioned Albert Einstein, a brilliant physicist who also spoke about the importance of a cosmic religious feeling and saw a deep connection between science and spirituality. He's a great example of someone who didn't see those two realms as mutually exclusive.
Are there any other historical figures who embody this harmony of science and faith?
There are so many. Isaac Newton, for instance, was deeply religious and saw his scientific discoveries as a way of uncovering God's design in the universe. And you have George Lemaitre, a Catholic priest and physicist who proposed the Big Bang Theory, demonstrating that scientific inquiry and religious faith can go hand in hand.
It's fascinating to see how many scientists throughout history have found a way to reconcile their scientific pursuits with their spiritual beliefs.
And today, we see more and more scientists speaking openly about their faith and how it informs their work. Francis Collins, the former director of the National Institutes of Health, is a great example.
Yeah.
He's a world-renowned geneticist who is also a devout Christian and has written extensively about the compatibility of science and faith.
It's encouraging to see those barriers breaking down, showing that you don't have to choose between scientific rigor and spiritual meaning. You can embrace both.
Exactly. And it's not just about scientists. We can also look to figures like the Dalai Lama, who has actively engaged in dialogues with scientists, recognizing the value of both scientific and spiritual perspectives in understanding the world and addressing human suffering.
It's really about fostering these conversations and collaborations across disciplines and belief systems.
And it's about recognizing that all knowledge is interconnected. Science can illuminate the workings of the natural world,
Right.
while religion can provide ethical guidance and a sense of purpose and meaning. When we bring these perspectives together, we create a much richer understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
I love that. It's about seeing the bigger picture and recognizing that science and religion are both part of humanity's ongoing quest for truth and meaning.
And ultimately, it's about creating a world where both science and religion can flourish, where they can complement and enrich each other,
Right.
and where they can work together to create a more just, sustainable, and spiritually enlightened future for all.
It really is a beautiful vision, this idea of science and religion, not as adversaries, but as collaborators working together to create a more just sustainable and spiritually enlightened future. But it makes you wonder, how do we actually get there? What can we as individuals do to contribute to this kind of world?
It's a powerful question, and one the essay encourages us to grapple with. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the challenges, but even small actions can make a difference. It starts with a shift in perspective within ourselves.
So it's not about waiting for some grand sweeping change from the top down, but starting with our own attitudes and actions.
Precisely. Cultivating a posture of openness and respect for both science and religion, even if we personally lean more strongly towards one or the other. Challenge your own biases. Be willing to engage in respectful conversations with people who hold different views and look for opportunities to learn from both scientific and spiritual perspectives.
It's about expanding our own understanding and recognizing that truth can be found in many forms. Are there any practical steps we can take in our everyday lives to embody this more integrated worldview?
Absolutely. We can be more mindful about how we consume information. Instead of blindly accepting everything we hear or read, especially in this age of information overload, we can ask critical questions. Consider the source, look for different perspectives, and seek out reliable, evidence-based information.
It's like flexing that critical thinking muscle, not just when it comes to science or religion, but in every area of life.
Exactly. And we can also support organizations and initiatives that are working to bridge this divide. There are so many groups out there doing incredible work in education, interfaith dialogue, ethical advocacy around science and technology. You can volunteer your time, donate to their causes, or simply help spread the word about the work they're doing.
Putting our values into action, whatever form that takes for each of us. And I think it's important to remember that this is a journey, not a destination. We're all constantly learning and evolving, and our understanding of the relationship between science and religion will likely evolve right alongside us.
That's so true. It's a lifelong exploration, and one that requires both curiosity and humility.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the intersection of faith and science, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listeners will carry with them?
I hope they'll remember that science and religion are not inherently at odds. They have the potential to be powerful allies in our quest for a better world. When we approach both with open minds and hearts, we unlock incredible possibilities for progress, understanding, and meaning.
It's a powerful thought, and one that offers a lot of hope, I think. Imagine a world where every scientific breakthrough, every technological leap was guided by a strong moral compass. What kind of world could we create?
That's the question I hope our listeners will keep exploring. The possibilities like the universe itself are truly vast and awe-inspiring,